Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Linda, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we are advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you were able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Linda, and welcome everyone who is in the Zoom room right now, everyone who's watching on YouTube, and everyone who checks in with our message later on YouTube. We are glad to have you with us, and your energy contributes to this wonderful spiritual community. Our broadcast date is Sunday, January the 7th. It's the first Sunday of the new year. So happy New Year, everyone. Yesterday was January the 6th, and that was Epiphany, also known as Three Kings Day, also known as 12th Night. It's the official close to the winter holiday season, and our topic for today is Epiphany. But I have a couple fun things to share with you along the lines of changing times and exciting revelations. So I'd like to credit an email that I receive and signed up for and receive every week from a ministry called Spiritual Passages for some of the content I'm sharing today, the first of which are a couple of jokes. So this is a one-liner. The past, present, and future confronted another about who was most important. It was a tense moment. I'll give you a second to get that one. All right, and here's another one. This is more of a narrative joke. So an elderly Amish couple went with their granddaughter to visit a department store for the first time. And they are understandably a bit overwhelmed with all the trappings and technology in the store. And at one point, the grandmother is standing in front of an elevator, puzzled about what this device is. And she watches as an older man walking stooped over with a cane shuffles onto the elevator and the doors close. And then when the doors open again, a much younger, stronger, physically fit man emerges, and she is amazed. The granddaughter walks up, sees the elevator, and asks, "What is that?" And the grandmother says, "I don't know, but get your grandfather over here really quick." So talk about an epiphany, right? Something new that you haven't even conceived of before. So as you all know, those of you who've been with me before, I like to start with some definitions of like, what is it that we're talking about today? So of course, I've been looking up epiphany. So this is based on the Greek word epiphaneia, which means appearance or manifestation. So epiphanies are sudden realizations or insights like, I've got it. And this can be amazing or inspiring. Sometimes it can be frightful or stressful when you all of a sudden realize something that you haven't realized before. Now, epiphanies often lead to personal growth and positive change. They can also shine the light into uncomfortable truths or realizations that can be difficult for us to process. As with many aspects of our lives, the insight from an epiphany can sort of reveal the two sides to one coin. And there's a sense of both kind of looking back to review and reframe what's come before and looking forward with intention about what we would like to bring into manifestation. So, of course, January is a great time to talk about epiphanies. Not only does Epiphany happen in January, but the month of January was named after the Roman god Janus, who represents new beginnings. So Janus was known as a protector of gates and doorways that symbolize beginnings and endings. Janus is depicted in ancient art with two faces, one looking into the past and the other with the ability to see the future. And what a fitting symbol that is for the first Sunday of the year. January is our door into the new year and our door into a new way of being, potentially an epiphany. So an epiphany is a light bulb moment, a new idea. An epiphany can be showing us what we want to move towards, or it can be showing us what we want to move away from. An epiphany often prompts us to set intentions and move into action. So, as we know, January is often associated with making resolutions that are focused on actions and goals. However, let's make space for this in our consciousness that an epiphany may also be a resolution to be at ease, to be at rest, to pause, rather than pushing forward toward a goal or some form of action. So at this point in January, this can be a time for both endings and beginnings, and it's important for us to make space for both. So I have a quote here from Richard Rohr. So if you're not familiar with Richard Rohr, he's an American Franciscan priest and an author. So this quote comes from a book called, 2011 book called Falling Upward. Somehow the end is in the beginning, and the beginning points toward the end. We are sent and drawn by the same force, the Alpha and Omega. What appears to be past and future is in fact the same home, the same call, the same God, for whom 1,000 years are like a single day, and a single day like 1,000 years. And at the end there, he is referencing scripture, Psalm 90, verse 4. So as we move into a new year, how can we create a mindset so that we can be open to new ideas, open to the opportunity of experiencing an epiphany, especially if we've been feeling a lack of energy or a lack of connection, or if we've been feeling stuck? How can we step out of those old patterns and create space for new ideas? Well, one answer that we can find comes from scripture, from the Gospel of Matthew, where Jesus is encouraging his disciples, and of course, then just encouraging us to change and become like little children. Change and become like little children. So we're not talking about childish qualities, but childlike qualities. So what childlike quality is Jesus referring to? Now, for some of us, we may have the opportunity to engage with little children on a regular basis, or it might have been a long time, maybe since you were a child, that you had the chance to spend some time with a child. But to children, all things are new, right? Everything is fascinating. Everything is filled with wonder. Children don't have the memories of experiences to prejudge things before they even try them. And for us adults, we have a whole data bank of things that our brain has collected about what we like, what we don't like, what's safe, what's not safe, what all of those kinds of things. this kind of prejudgment so that our brains can filter and help us to make quick choices. But what it does is limit us from really experiencing things as new, really being in that childlike moment of seeing things for the first time. And of course, new ideas, the kind of new ideas we're talking about with an epiphany, are found in new experiences, new moments. So in Buddhism, this quality is called beginner's mind. And here's a quote from a gentleman named Leo Babauta. I think I'm saying his name correctly. This is an article called Approaching Life with Beginner's Mind. What is beginner's mind? It's dropping our expectations and preconceived ideas about something and seeing things with an open mind, fresh eyes, just like a beginner. If you've ever learned something new, you can remember what that's like. You're probably confused because you don't know how to do whatever it is you're learning, but you're also looking at everything as if it's brand new, perhaps with curiosity and wonder. That is beginner's mind. So, this childlike quality that we're talking about, this quality of having beginner's mind, how can we cultivate that? Because most of us, let's face it, we're kind of going through our days, going through our regular activities like we always do. We might be at this time of year looking for a way to recapture that freshness, that fresh quality of a new year, new ideas, new opportunities. So here are some tips for how we can capture that energy. All right. So, number one, attempt to clear your mind of thoughts, beliefs, expectations. And very often when we are moving into prayer time in our service or into meditation, you'll hear me say, quiet the mind and open the heart. So all of us, of course, our brains function differently. It's important for each of us to be aware of how our brains work because many of us have a tendency to just, when any new circumstance shows up, to immediately launch into thinking, evaluating, categorizing, putting things into different categories and assessment and things like that. Just be aware of how your brain works so that you can settle your thoughts. Some people kind of feel their way emotionally through things and evaluate things based on relationship, and some of us kind of function from a level of gut instincts. Now, a lot of this is things that I talk about when I teach the Enneagram. So you'll hear me mention the Enneagram now and then. I do have an intro class that's starting next week. So if you haven't taken Enneagram class with me, then reach out and let's do that. So my point is to be aware of how your brain works, because that awareness will help you to quiet the mind so that before you approach a new experience, say, I'm going to try a new exercise routine, or I'm going to try a new part of my daily routine, or a change in my nutrition, whatever it is, or try a new relationship. Try emptying your mind of previous judgments, expectations, preconceptions about how things are going to go, and enter into it with beginner's mind. Another thing you can do, this is number 2 on my list for this morning, engage your senses. Just pause and pay attention. So let's say one of your goals for the new year, weather permitting, is to go outdoors and take a walk. Pause and pay attention. Really engage your sense of sight and really see your circumstances. Really take a moment to look. to look at what is around you, see the light and the colors and the movement in your environment. Just take a moment to pay attention to that. Engage your sense of hearing. So listen. Just get quiet. Sometimes when you get quiet, you actually can sort of hear the activity of your own breathing in your body and that kind of thing. And you can sort of hear layers of things. So you might hear your body and you can sort of move beyond that and hear your environment, the subtle sounds that are in the background, the things that our brain takes in and interprets immediately that tells us about our environment. Just take a moment to notice. Do you hear things like trains or cars in the background? Do you hear the activity of people? Do you hear birds? Just pay attention. Another thing we can pay attention to is our sense of smell, right? So much of how we interpret the world, particularly when it comes to interpersonal relationships, comes from our sense of smell, like whether you want to be around that or not, based on your sense of smell. So take a deep breath with your nose and see what it has to tell you, right? Pay attention to your sense of touch, and this would include your awareness of the temperature of the air around you. Pay attention to all of that. And for many of us, we have an awareness of the energy around us. And this would be, kind of a wisdom of the body sense of that we have that, doesn't show up when we list out our sense of sight and sound and taste and all of that. But get a sense of the energy around you and see what your body tells you about what you're drawn to and what you want to keep yourself away from. So that's number 2. There's pay attention to your senses when you go into a new circumstance. Number 3 takes us back to children. So if you don't have the opportunity to hang out with kids, maybe take a moment to just sit on a bench at a playground or something like that and just observe. Just watch how children go about things, how they approach things. Like I'm thinking of toddlers at the moment, and one of their primary ways of learning about the world is to put things in their mouth. So you can see a toddler just put alarming things into their mouth, and that, one of the things that's never ending for the parent of a toddler is try to keep dangerous things out of the mouth, right? So just observing those kinds of actions and the way that children interact with the world. Number 4 is to attempt in new situations to let go of your ego. So the word ego is used in lots of different ways in different spiritual paths. And basically in unity, when we say ego, we're talking about the kind of like the awareness of your human brain, because your human brain is in charge of managing things in the outer world for you. And primarily your human brain, your ego wants to feel worthy, recognized, seen, and wants to feel safe. But what that does is on a human level, bring up lots of attachment to outcomes and that kind of need to be seen and feel included and be worthy, be seen as important or competent or be seen as nice, whatever it is that your ego might be attached to. Try to just enter into new experiences by letting those things go if you can. Just try to notice and let it go. Number 5, of course, is engage curiosity. Practice asking, what if? Many times our brain will evaluate something and demand that we turn back from a new opportunity because it's unsafe, because the possibility of being successful is calculated in, the pros and cons. It's like, no, we better not try that. How about if you're just in a space of asking questions? What if? And if I don't succeed, what? You know, I mean, if we're not dealing with a situation of someone being injured or killed, is it such a terrible thing to fail? Or if something doesn't work out, well, we'll still be okay. I think of my husband when I talk about this because I've learned so much from him, because the possibility of failure is just really so low on his priority list of how he decides what he's going to do, because he's just interested in the experience of doing it. So let's say something goes wrong with a car. Well, he's not going to take it to a mechanic. He's going to get online, do a bunch of research about what this is, and then he's going to dig in and try. And what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, maybe he has to have it towed to the mechanic ultimately. And at the end of the day, he'll say, but look, I learned so much about whatever it is that he was doing. So it's that sense of curiosity of, how does this work? What would it be like if it didn't work? Would it be okay? Just be curious, ask yourself questions, and try to keep yourself from just automatically shutting down the possibility of a new idea or a new opportunity. And number 6 in my little list here of how to cultivate this childlike sense of beginner's mind is just remind yourself to take one step at a time. So very often when we have an idea of like, oh, let's say we have an idea to travel, and you see yourself walking the paths of wherever it is that you have, that your imagination has said, this is where we should go. And then our brains automatically steps in with, what's the weather going to be like, how much is it going to cost, how are we going to get there, and forces us to turn back. So maybe it's easier to open up to a new idea and a new experience if we just look at the next step, and nothing more, and just take one step at a time. Take that one step, see how it feels, then maybe take one more, and not overwhelm yourself with the whole immensity of a new project, a new idea, a new way of being. So most of all, aside from my list of helpful hints, in order to create space for new ideas, in order to create space for an epiphany, first find your spiritual footing, my friends. When we operate from our innate sense of faith, our power of faith, and without fear, we are like children, and new ideas come to us with ease. When we operate from the divine understanding that good and goodness is always present in all circumstances, we can step into beginner's mind and be open to opportunity. When we claim divine order in all of our pursuits, we can navigate change and obstacles with grace and with ease. And when we go first to spirit for guidance, not our human brain, to spirit, we can remain open to new ideas and new experiences. So I have one more quote to share for you today as we wind up this message, and it's about pogo sticks. Anybody ever remember playing with a pogo stick when you were a kid? This is from, the woman's name is Andriette Earle from Heart and Soul Center of Light. So here's what she says about pogo sticks. Going higher requires rooting deeper. Operating a pogo stick is a useful metaphor for this intention. If you recall jumping on a pogo stick or watching someone do it, first, you must literally plunge down in order to jump up. To fully rise up, we must first be grounded and rooted in spirit. That's how we are wired. Everything we experience serves to energize our internal spring. When we are rooted in spirit, our next jump is divinely guided and supported so we can spring into even greater heights. So, it's a week where we seek to be childlike and use beginner's mind to create space for new ideas in a new year. So, what an epiphany! All right, folks, we are going to move now into a time of meditation. And before I get started with that, I want to let you know I'm going to be using some words from the Unity's holiday booklet about Epiphany from Reverend Elizabeth Mora. So right now, as we get started, let's start with a few deep breaths and do our best to, yes, quiet the mind. Just take all the thinking that's going on and just ask it to just take a pause, take a break for a few minutes as we open the heart space and come to the present moment, continuing to contemplate this idea of epiphany. Whenever I feel challenged, I allow myself to open to the possibility of an epiphany, an answer, a change of heart, a new vision are always waiting for me. What a wonderful surprise I experience when I discover a truth I hadn't seen before. The abundance of life overflows, and I now consciously step into that stream. I can tap into this source by speaking an affirmative prayer, spending time in the silence, reaching out to a friend for help, or volunteering to support a person in need. By shifting my mindset, I set the stage for an unexpected gift to be realized. Suddenly, a conflict resolves or a blessing multiplies exponentially. So let us take that energy of epiphany into the stillness for a few moments now here together. And as we begin to bring our attention back to the current moment, we claim, I now open myself to opportunity. I am safe and secure in spirit as I lean into new ideas and new experiences. I am willing to let my life be changed for the better. And we're going to close with an affirmation here today. As you all know, I like to take my hand and put it right on my heart space when saying an affirmation so that that affirmation is anchored in the heart and in the body. So I'm not just talking to the thoughts floating around in the ether. We're right here and right now. So here's the affirmation today. I am joyfully open to new ideas and experiences. Say it with me, friends. I am joyfully open to new ideas and new experiences. One more time. I am joyfully open to new ideas and new experiences. So I am, and so you are, my friends. Thank you so much for being here this morning. And for those of you local to Fredericksburg, I hope that you will be joining with us in person today at 4 o'clock for our annual White Stone ceremony. So that's it for me. I'm going to hand it back to my friend Linda, who's our service leader.
Thank you, Reverend Cheryl. And thank you all for watching this weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again,